Okay, we'll call this September 4th, 2014 meeting of the Cookeville City Council to order. Could I have a roll call, please?
Councilman Woodford.
Present.
Councilman Hendry.
Here.
Mayor Shelton.
Here.
Vice Mayor Epps.
Here.
Councilman Womack.
Here.
All present.
All right. If we could all rise for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Lord, thank you for this day and for all the blessings. Thank you for this city and this county and this region. Just pray your wisdom and guidance upon each one of us and lead us through all things. In your name we pray and ask it. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, item 1, consider approval of agenda as presented.
Motion to approve.
We have no changes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All vote.
5 yes votes. Motion carries.
Okay, at this time I want to read a proclamation. It is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, and I'll read this proclamation and then we'll have Dr. John Averett speak for just a moment. Whereas suicide is one of the most disruptive and tragic events a family and a community can experience, with more than 900 lives lost in Tennessee each year and an estimated 8 to 25 attempted suicides for each suicide death. And whereas suicide is the 9th leading cause of all deaths in Tennessee and the 2nd leading cause of death among people from the age of 15 to 24. And whereas public awareness of this terrifying problem is the key to preventing further suffering and loss of life, and the risk for human self-destruction can be reduced through awareness, education, and treatment, and as the highest risk for suicide is amongst the survivors of those who died by suicide or those who have attempted suicide. And whereas suicide prevention has been declared a national priority by the President and Congress, and Tennessee declares suicide prevention as a state priority, and the legislature, in partnership with TSPN, implements the Tennessee Strategy for Suicide Prevention based on the National Strategy for Suicide Prevention. And whereas Tennessee is a national leader in the effort to prevent suicide, being one of the first states to develop a suicide prevention and evaluation plan covering the lifespan, and whereas the governor of Tennessee has appointed a Suicide Prevention Network Advisory Council to coordinate the implementation of the Tennessee Strategy for Suicide Prevention, and whereas the Tennessee Suicide Prevention Network is a grassroots collaboration of Tennesseans and organizations working to eliminate the stigma of suicide, educate the community about the warning signs of suicide, and ultimately reduce the rate of suicide in our state. And whereas the Tennessee Suicide Prevention Network is also committed to excellence in suicide prevention, intervention, and post-prevention. Therefore, I, Ricky Shelton, Mayor of the City of Cookeville, do hereby proclaim September 2014 as Suicide Prevention Awareness Month in Cookeville, and urge all citizens to work to prevent suicide and to raise awareness and tolerance around all people affected by this tragedy. And if we could have Dr. John Averett come up and speak to this for just a moment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you to the City Council for supporting this proclamation. I was honored to be appointed to this network by the Governor of Tennessee in February. And I just want to say that it said 900 on this proclamation. That's actually 2012 numbers. In 2013, we had over 1,100 Tennesseans take their own lives. We think that's because we're doing a better job recognizing what's suicide and what's accidental death. Tonight we're having a Daniel Seal celebration out at Tennessee State. I'm going to be leaving to go there. We have actually 5 events in Putnam County this month. And on the 10th, we're having a statewide event in Nashville where the governor will be collecting these proclamations. We actually have 95% signatures of proclamations by mayors and county executives, and I appreciate our mayor signing this one so graciously. We're trying to get all citizens to be more aware of suicides. I work in this field just about every day. Police officers, firefighters, first responders, nurses, doctors, we see this so much in our community. And we're trying to do all we can to educate people to know more about it. So I really do appreciate the City Council, the Mayor, taking your time to read the proclamation and to help us in this valiant effort. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Dr. Averett, for what you and your group is doing to prevent this. Okay, item number 2, consider approval of minutes of council meeting held on August 21.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Okay, under new business, item 3, hold a public hearing and consider on first reading ordinance 140814, annexation of properties located on Bennett Road and identified as parcels 72, 73, 73.01, and 74.01 on tax map number 64, and establishing the zoning for the area, and resolution R140815, adopting plan of services for the same. Sponsor James Mills.
Mayor and council members, this is the general location of the area being considered. As you can see, it's on the southwestern fringe of the city. Here's a closer view of the property. This site consists of approximately 49 acres. And as you can see from this, it's basically surrounded by the city. It is completely bounded on the north, south, and west, and partially on the east. It consists of 4 parcels, which are identified as parcel 72, 73, 7301, and 7401, as you said, on map 40D Group A. And it's located entirely within the city's urban growth boundary. This annexation would also include about 1,175 feet of Bennett Road, and it would bound on the city again on the western side. This annexation proposal was initiated at the request of the owners of the 4 properties, which they're all 4 owned by Daniel and Martha Hall. The petition for annexation also included a request for the establishment of CI, commercial industrial mixed-use zoning for the properties. Here's an aerial view of the property. This is the surrounding zoning of the property. Let me go back to the aerial view, which also has the parcels. Water services provided to the properties by the Cookeville Boat Dock Utility District and will continue to be provided by the district until such time as the city is able to acquire the service area. By contract, the utility district must update lines within 5 years so that lines that will support fire hydrants if the city does not acquire the service area. Sanitary sewer will have to be extended to the properties by the city of Cookeville. It's estimated the cost for this to be at $100,000, and it would be done in conjunction with the extension of sewer service to the Academy Sports site. Natural gas service is and will continue to be provided by Middle Tennessee Natural Gas. Electric service will continue to be provided by the Upper Cumberland Electric Membership Cooperative. And the city will pay UCEMC for the provision of street lighting in the area. Based on current property tax assessments, the annual revenue based on the current level of development to the city from property tax is $1,357. And as noted, the property owners have requested CI, commercial industrial mixed-use zoning. And again, it's surrounded on 3 sides by the CI zoning. Now, we're required to review the plan of services, which is resolution number R140815, and I'll go through that fairly quickly here on a point-by-point basis. Police protection will begin upon the effective date of annexation. Fire protection will begin upon the effective date of annexation. I've reviewed the provisions for water. Will continue to be served by the Cookeville Boat Dock Utility District unless the city acquires the area. If we acquire it, then we'll upgrade anything that needs to be upgraded within 5 years after the effective date of annexation. Sanitary sewer, again, will be extended by the city at an estimated cost of $100,000. It's estimated to be done in conjunction with the Academy Sports development. Solid waste collection would begin within 60 days after the effective date of annexation. Street maintenance will begin upon the effective date of annexation. Inspection services will begin upon the effective date of annexation. Planning and zoning, the ordinance before you would establish the zoning, and that would become effective upon the date of annexation. Residents in the area can use the facilities of the city of Cookeville. Already can, and they'll continue to be able to after the effective day of annexation. And as I noted earlier, electric service will continue to be provided by Upper Cumberland Electric Membership, and we will request that they provide the street lighting within 1 year after the effective date of annexation. And the final service is natural gas, and again, it will continue to be provided by Middle Tennessee Natural Gas. The proposed annexation, the establishment of zoning as CI, and the plan of services have been approved by the Planning Commission, and the Planning Department recommends for their adoption.
Thank you, Mr. Mills. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. We'll open it up for discussion.
James, if you would, help me understand as far as the sewer service is concerned, how that is connected to or in conjunction with what we're doing for Academy.
Well, Ronnie might be better to speak on this, but
Okay.
sewers is a little ways away from this, and we have to extend down. Ronnie, we're coming down Bennett Road with the sewer for them?
Down to the corner.
Yeah. So this is to be the entrance to Academy right here, so it's not much further to go down to hit these properties. That's correct, Ronnie?
Yes.
And
I think
So the
that's
fact that
1,000.
what's happening with Academy is happening now is going to enhance or at least benefit the folks here and expedite it maybe.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, it would. It expedites it quite a bit.
I have a question, Mr. Mayor, if it's okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. James, I guess the only most of these plan of services are really underneath our control. The only one that really isn't underneath our control is the electric service and street lighting. I guess my concern is, I mean, since this is such an important project for the city and for the county and for the entire Upper Cumberland, because it says here that if they will provide, street lighting and electric services, and we'll request they do this within 1 year of the effective date. I mean, do we have any teeth behind that we can?
We
I mean, the reason I ask because it's pretty crucial. I mean, this is crucial stuff.
the street lighting.
Well, I mean, if Academy makes an issue out of this, it could be. And this is really the only thing out of our control.
With
so.
Academy, that's all been worked out with Upper Cumberland for the electric service, and I assume the street lighting. And we will if it's outside our service area, we pay them to provide the street lighting. And we've not had a whole lot of problems with them doing that, have we?
We have not.
So historically, we have not. So there's really no
No,
expectation.
and-
I guess maybe I'm just worrying a little bit, maybe too much. But that was just something.
And one thing to keep in mind, too, is that, we have to pay Upper Cumberland for those street lights, but I have to pay Tony Peak for the street lights inside the city of Cookeville anyway, so it's basically the same thing.
Right.
And we, as far as I know, they've been real good about providing the street lighting when we've asked them to.
And I think too, if Upper Cumberland would agree, we would try to acquire, but they won't. There's
Yeah,
no
they-
option for that anymore.
Okay, just something. I was just curious. So thank you for your explanation, Mr. Mills. Appreciate that.
Was there any questions from the audience? Any more from the council? All vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Okay, item 4, hold a public hearing and consider on first reading ordinance 140815, rezoning 420, 430 Peak Drive and 412 Blake Circle from RS10 Single Family Residential to RM8 Multi-Family Residential. Cookeville Planning Commission denied the rezoning request on 6/23/14, and the property owner, Michael Gall, is appealing their decision to the City Council. Sponsor James Mills.
Mayor and council members, this is the location of the site that Mr. Gall requested for rezoning. You can see it consists of 3 parcels. Now, as you noted, at the June meeting, the Planning Commission unanimously recommended that this request be denied, and Mr. Gall subsequently requested that this rezoning be forwarded on to the City Council, and the City Council, of course, is the final say-so on a rezoning. Also, to note that a similar request from Mr. Gall was considered and denied by the Planning Commission in 2008, but the 2008 recommendation was not appealed to the City Council. Mr. Gall has indicated that the purpose of the rezoning is to allow for the construction of multifamily units on the properties. The parcels, again, are identified as parcel 702, 703, and 27 on tax maps 40 and 48, Group C. Parcel 702 consists of approximately 1.3 acres, 703 of 2.4 acres, and parcel 27, which is in the North Haven subdivision, consists of about 1/4 of an acre. Combined, these 3 tracts consist of approximately 4 acres, or 174,000 square feet. Located on parcel 702, which is this tract, is a mobile home, and then there are 2 single-family dwellings currently located on 703. And then the tract within the North Haven subdivision is undeveloped. If rezoned, if all the properties were rezoned as requested, approximately 34 dwelling units could be located And this is in this zone, it's 5,000 square feet per dwelling unit. Here's an aerial view of the properties. This is the current zoning around it, and as you can see, that is contiguous with RS10 zoning to the northwest and south, and with RM8, the requested zone, to the east. Parcel 7.03 is split. This is an entire parcel right here. As you can see, one portion of it is already located within RM8 zoning, and this is about 7/10 of an acre. So this tract consists of the remainder is 1.7 acres is zoned as RS10. Access to these two tracts is from Peak Drive, and in its current condition, it is not suitable for as access to high-density development. Here's a view from Carolina on Peak, and it is wide at its point here. It's only 15 feet wide. It actually narrows some as you go west towards these two properties. Mr. Galls indicated that if the rezoning was approved, that he would access the properties from Blake Circle through parcel 27. The planning department is not aware of any deed restrictions or covenants that would prohibit the parcel from being utilized as an access point. And Blake Circle does comply with the applicable street standards that the city has. And here's a closer view, an aerial view of where he would come in from if the property was rezoned. Our land use plan, our 2030 plan, indicates that the property is primarily best suited for low-density residential use, with an eastern portion suitable for mixed density, which RM8 falls under. The properties appear to have adequate access to utilities, which would be necessary to support the proposed zoning. While the properties along Blake Circle and the North Haven Estate subdivision consist primarily of single-family homes, we've reviewed the Putnam County tax assessor records, and none of these structures are owner occupied. They're all rental properties. Of course, a major issue for higher density development, and for this area in particular, is access. As I noted, Peak Drive is not suitable. This was a primary concern to the Planning Commission in 2008 when the request was denied. Not only the access, but also potential traffic impact was mentioned. In 2008, we had at least 2 property owners that expressed opposition to the rezoning. These same concerns and the same opposition were expressed at the meeting last June. It should also be noted that on property on Peak and extends over through here, all 3 tracts that are requested for rezoning are partially impacted by a sinkhole floodplain, and that would have to be mitigated to cross over here and to get to this property. On the part that's already zoned as RM8, this tract portion right in here, approximately 6 units could be constructed. That's about 32,000 square feet, and they could be right now accessed from Peak. This is an existing tract on an existing street. If by rezoning the remainder of this tract, that would allow 17 more units, which would be a total of 23 units if the remainder of this piece and this piece were rezoned and would be accessed from Blake Circle. If we exclude parcel 7.02, that reduces the potential number of dwelling units by 11. The planning department did recommend for conditional approval of what I've just discussed, the rezoning of the remainder of this part, which is partially zoned as RM8, and with rezoning of this section so that access could be provided, subject to combining these tracts into one piece, and to an agreement from the property owner that access to the combined properties be restricted to Blake Circle only, or until Peak Drive is brought up to required street standards. And as I previously noted, the Planning Commission voted unanimously to deny the rezoning proposal. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to try and answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Mills. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? I'll make a second just so we can have discussion. So we have a motion and a second. First, we'll open it up to the audience if anyone would like to speak to this or has a question.
Okay, my name is Kelly Ramsey. I live off of Carolina Avenue, but don't join this property where I reside. I do own the land that's west of this property. I own this land here. And my mother-in-law owns these two parcels. And this Peak Drive, as it is today, of course, it's just about untravelable. It's very narrow. If you meet a car on that street anywhere, you have to pull out of the road and let them through, or back up to a driveway or something. We also have a lot of people that uses that road as a walk area, maybe for exercise and so on and so forth. And we have a lot of children that play on that road, and they're riding bicycles and skateboards and such. So it's very dangerous in that aspect. Peak Drive, if this is developed, and even if they have access from Blake Drive, nothing says that they can't use Peak Drive anyway. But outside of that, that will increase the traffic on that street with pedestrians and children playing and so on and so forth, which is going to cause some problems. Now, as concerning this rezoning, this proposed site does not join Carolina Avenue. Of course, I've lived there for many years, and the zoning along Carolina Avenue, actually every other zoning with the exception of this and touches Carolina Avenue. This juts back into single-family residential area, and it seems to me it's an encroachment on the single-family residential area. That's pretty much what I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Ramsey. Anyone else?
Thank you. In the
Identify yourself,
Oh, I'm
please.
sorry. I'm Sally Askew,
Thank
and
you.
I actually live on East White Oak. I'll show you where that is. I live right about here, right in here. This is, Pine comes up there. It was never intended to be a through street. It is a dead end, and it ends back behind my house and the house next to me. It's a very narrow street, and we have a lot of traffic since the single-family residences have been built there. Blake Circle turns down off of Pine, which is that little narrow street, by a single-family residence and goes into where the single-family rentals are that are owned by the Galt properties. Blake Circle is really not a circle. It goes to the right, and it has a turnaround. It dead ends and butts up to property that faces on 12th Street. Then Blake Circle goes on around and comes out on Carolina, and then you turn left to go down to Peak. Now, when this originally came up, we didn't know anything about this until today, but we have concerns about it. But the property on 12th Street was sought, as Mr. Mills addressed, to be rezoned to multifamily 14 and then later to 8 in 2008. And in 2009, we came before the council as a neighborhood, bringing petitions with over 300 signatures. Many of those people that came that night to talk about our concerns are here tonight. Our quality of life is certainly affected by multi-dwellings behind us. From crime rate to sewer problems, every time we get our road paved, they're out there working on sewer problems from the additional burden on the system. We also have problems from the watershed and the sinkhole problems that since that property's been developed back there, that we've just created additional problems. Can we prove that that's actually the cause? No, but it didn't happen until after that was done. One of the things that we're all concerned about is our quality of life and our property values. And also that property that Mr. Ramsey just pointed out butts up to our property. And his property is right there between us. So all of us from Sherwood down to 12th Street are all concerned about this. And many people couldn't come tonight, but they still have the same concerns that we did back then. What it does to our property values, to our quality of life. And we went back and looked at the plan that Cookeville had for that property, and it was to be a reserve of wooded areas and to protect our quality of life and the way we have chosen to live. Mr. Shelton, you may remember that. I think you were on that council then. But those are still our concerns. And Also, the hidden costs. That's a highly traveled road right there. Traffic is a problem, even with the addition of the apartments that were already rezoned that have been built on facing 12th Street. We have constant traffic problems and just flow problems from that. There is no main outlet to get anywhere except to come out on 12th Street, so that creates additional problems for all of us who live there on an already, maybe technically it's not burden according to standards, but it is burden according to the people that live there. So we're really requesting that this not happen for a lot of reasons. We like where we live. We chose to live there because it is a quiet neighborhood. We have a lot of noise. I hear everything that goes on in the single-family livings and the apartments that have been built just in my backyard. And that's maybe minor to some, but when you live there day after day, you really don't want to deal with that. We've also had problems with the children that live in some of those places speeding up through there, and one of them even hit one of our neighbors' fence that's in her, well, not her fence, her yard, and a tree in her backyard because they refuse to stop. They just speed through there, all the time. It's just, I don't know how to say it, but we would just appreciate you not doing this because we don't feel like it's good for us. We choose to live in Cookeville in an area that's quiet and peaceful and that has access, that we don't have a lot of problems. But I believe, and I think most of the people with me believe, that if that does change, then we'll just have more problems to deal with. The other thing that gives us concern is that property that they tried to seek rezoning of initially on 12th Street that goes from where the RM8 is down to Pine Avenue. Once that's opened up from Blake, through our point of view, it opens up a comeback to have that rezoned too, and to have all those houses purchased, torn down, and larger family dwellings put up, multifamily dwellings put up. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Askey. Anyone else?
I'm Juanita Bilbrey, and I live at 1215 East White Oak Drive, and I'm located, here. And I'm the person who was at home, dog next to the tree in the doghouse, 2 o'clock in the morning. Dustin Cash comes through in a big, large car and hits that tree head on. The tree is located in my backyard. I don't have much of a backyard as it is, and there's already a road that comes through my backyard at such that people in my home standing in my kitchen would say, "Why is there a car in your backyard?" Well, it's not in my backyard, but it's in the road in my backyard, and people fly through there. So if you open up, I agree with Sue, if you open up that to Blake, which is they're either going to come out here, which is probably not going to happen so much as them just coming up and coming out here like they already do, especially in those homes that are already there that are single home dwellings, but a lot of tech children rent them. So we have a lot of partying going on, and that's what they're talking about with the loud noises. I can sit on my back porch and hear young men and women screaming and yelling, loud music. It's inevitable. It's only going to get worse if we open that land up for them to be able to come out on Bryce. So we just appreciate it if you take into consideration. We are single homes. We do have small children. They do play in the roads. We have one little girl next door to us. Her father and her come out on their bikes and ride up and down the road. He in front of her, she in front of him, almost every evening. This is stuff that these families are going to have to change. But we appreciate y'all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bilberry.
Hi, I'm Marcia Boris, and I would just like to reiterate what the previous people that have spoken have said, because we were the first home down there in 1959, and I thought we'd moved to a wilderness. That's pretty humorous now, because obviously the neighborhood has changed drastically over the years. But we don't want it to see it continue to get to the point where we don't want to live there anymore, and that's where we fear that it's going, and that's a major concern to us. We love that area, and it's been very special to us, and we would just appreciate any consideration you could give us.
Thank you, Ms. Boris. Anyone else?
Hello, I'm Michael Gall. I guess I'm the one wanting this done. but I sort of like to have it, I like to sort of passionate and have an engineer to sort of draw it all out for the council and everything, show them what it is, because most people would, like this right here, would come out on 12th Street. I don't know many of them that goes out on Pine Hill. I own the houses sort of around over in there, but I like to have an engineer study, bring it back to you and show you how it would be developed, how this outlet right here would be and everything like that, the road I'd put in for it and everything like that at my cost. But I want to make it a win-win for you all, win-win for me too. And I know the city's growing, and but I don't think a lot of people would come out back in here as much as they would come out on Carolina when Blake turned left and coming on Carolina. So.
Thank you, Mr. Gall. Anyone else in the audience?
I'm Deborah Sam. I don't live anywhere near there, but I was just wondering what's going to be done about the sinkholes that to take care of that, make sure there's no problems, and honoring the sinkholes that exist, because sinkholes form for a reason, and the topography, they're not random. So
we have regulations that are designed to protect, maintain our sinkholes, and any construction near or within a sinkhole retention area has to be designed by a qualified engineer, and those plans have to be submitted to and approved by the city of Cookeville.
Council?
I'm sorry.
Oh.
But the only thing I would like to add about the traffic coming out on 12th, it's horrendous now. If I don't leave home by 7:30, I have a very difficult time getting out of my driveway because people coming out of Jackson County and down from that whole area. So the traffic on 12th is really heavy.
All right, Council?
A couple of quick questions. Correct me if I'm wrong, James, but as I understand it, your department recommended that this zone change take place, and that was your recommendation to the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission then voted unanimously not to do that. Am I right so far?
That's correct.
Okay.
Now, our recommendation wasn't to include all of it. It was just a portion of it.
Okay. The two questions that I have, one is for you, and if Councilman Woodford doesn't mind, one would be for him since he represents us on the Planning Commission, and I don't expect Jim to speak for everybody, but it was a unanimous vote. What prompted your office to say this is something we recommend? And then I would ask Jim what concerns did the Planning Commission have to prompt that unanimous vote not to do it?
Well, this was a difficult one for us to review, but what prompted our recommendation were twofold. One, this property is already partially zoned for multifamily purposes. It could go ahead and build 6 units now that would all come out on peak. We looked at it as an opportunity, if he could design at his cost and build at his cost an access to Blake Circle and restrict access to Blake Circle, that you'd actually have less impact, especially on the property owners on Peak Drive, because then it would all come out on Blake, which again, Blake meets standards, Carolina meets standards. Pine at the intersection of Blake does not meet standards. There's a big tree that sits right there in the corner there, and that was an issue when the Blake Circle subdivision was developed. There was a lot of concern about that. But those are the reasons why. We had the same concerns about density, especially about traffic impact, but particularly on Peak. That is not suitable it's not suitable for single family development. But that's why we recommend the way we did.
Councilman Woodford?
Well, I'd serve on the Planning Commission, and one of the reasons we considered not to allow this was the fact that like it was back in 2008, Peak Drive being so narrow, the pavement there in some places only 9 feet wide at the most, and there you've got an entrance of 15 feet total. With the addition of coming off Blake Circle, you've got a lot there. Matter of fact, you've got several in this area of quite large sinkholes. Some of them probably area-wise or an acre or more. I was concerned about stormwater retention, runoff on that. Also, the density, it felt like it was an encroachment on the single family in that area, the RS-15. I realize Blake Circle is populated primarily with tech students. I drove by there probably around 12 or 1 o'clock today, and one of the yards was littered with beer cans. I have the sense that where this would come out on Peak, or this area it's wanting to be rezoned, I have a feeling that would be inhabited also by tech students, and that would increase the noise level and disturbance for the people that live there. This reminds me of a quote I used in another situation that came before the Planning Commission that I've used before. The age-old argument that I own my property and I have the right to use it as I please has meaning only if it is accompanied by, as long as I don't use my property in a way that would infringe on my neighbor's right to enjoy the same privilege. I think this is infringing on the people that live there. I continue to believe that this is the right thing to do, is to deny this rezoning and leave it as is for right now.
So just to clarify, under the scenario that it is right now, with the part that, go back to the zoning, please. So the part that is RM8 now, 6 units can be built.
Yes.
And if he does meet the proper regulations, he can still come build his access onto Blake Circle without any other vote or planning commission or council intervention. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So that doesn't hinder him if he chooses to develop the part that he already has under the scenario, and then they'll either go out on Peak, which would be terribly unfortunate because it is literally a driveway. I went there myself today, and or choose to build the road as long as the requirements, and that would be through TDEC and other things because of the sinkhole that would have to be met to manage that properly. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Councilman Womack?
I, too, was out there this afternoon about 2 o'clock and didn't run into y'all. If I had, I couldn't have gone on Peak.
We'd still be there.
We're going to have our council meeting out there today, I think.
And I've talked to a couple of y'all over the telephone, and driving out there and seeing the area, and I don't think it's suitable for development. I think it should be left zoned as it is, and I can't support increasing it up to 30-something units. So what it's zoned for now, we can't change, but at least we can't change for the developer, but we can prevent it from being a multi-unit situation in the back part of the property. So I don't think it's suitable for further development.
Vice Mayor Epp?
I appreciate a lot of folks sticking their necks out on this issue. Appreciate the Planning Commission has really struggled with this. I can tell you guys have, trying to do the right thing. I know the Planning Commission, from talking to our delegate and Sage, Mr. Woodford over there, Councilman Woodford, has done his job. And you guys out here for doing your work, just trying to keep us informed about some of the real boots on the ground issues that are going on out there. I run out there, okay? I've run all over this town. I see it at a really slow pace and really close up. And just a couple things. I grew up on a farm, and it doesn't meet the good neighbor rule. I mean, if you did something to your property, you always checked with your neighbor because you wanted to make sure you didn't infringe upon some of their rights. But I also appreciate Mr. Goss sticking your neck out, because there is some. We're going to Tennessee Tech's growing, and we're going to have to figure out a way. This council and this planning commission and this planning department is going to have to figure out some ways to provide housing for tech students, which is a tremendous asset for this community. So we've got our work cut out for us. But I'm going to vote against this because of the things I just mentioned.
Very good. Any other discussion?
Mayor, I'd say real quickly that I was also on Peak today, and Councilman Womack, I'm glad we all didn't get there at the same time. But I did literally meet a car coming and got over as far to the right as I could to let it pass, and we still were very dangerously close together. So I'm glad we didn't show up at the same hour, which, as someone said, we'd still be out there.
I do appreciate the intervention and involvement of our community and our council, obviously trying to make the best informed decision. So I will call all vote now, please.
5 denied. Motion failed.
Thank you.
Okay, item 5, set a date, October 2nd, 2014, for a public hearing on ordinance 140916, rezoning 1937 North Dixie Avenue from RS10 Single Family Residential to RD Single Family and Duplex Residential. The Cookeville Planning Commission denied the rezoning request on 8/23/14, and the property owner, Randall King, is appealing their decision to the City Council. Sponsor Kathy McLean.
We're just setting a date
Right.
tonight.
And that will
It'll
be all.
October the 2nd, 2014
Very good.
at 5:30 p.m.
Very good. Item 6, receive approval letter from State of Tennessee Comptroller's Office for the issuance of $500,000 capital outlay note. Sponsor Mike Davidson.
Mayor and council members, just to refresh your memory, back on August the 7th, council approved a resolution that would authorize a $500,000 three-year capital outlay note. The proceeds from that note would be used to buy various equipment for the departments. On August the 20th, after the resolution was passed, I submitted the information to the Comptroller's Office seeking their approval as well to borrow this money. Received a letter from them on August the 20th approving the city to borrow this money. In that letter, they asked that we present the letter to the council at a council meeting, so you have that letter in your packet. On September 12th, I have contacted all the local banks. I've asked them to submit a bid if they're interested in loaning that money to the city of Cookeville at the best interest rate they could. So that information is due back on September the 12th, so next Friday, a week from tomorrow. Once the funds have been borrowed and the note is closed, I will send a copy of that note back to the Comptroller's Office as required by them, along with the report on debt obligation. It just summarizes what the transaction was, what the interest rate was, what the projected total interest cost is. I'll submit that back to the Comptroller as well. In addition, we'll disclose this bank loan on what's called the Electronic Municipal Market Access website, so that any person that currently holds city bonds, that's invested in any outstanding city bonds that are out there, they'll be aware that we borrowed $500,000 through a local bank. So it just discloses that information, makes it available to the public. And just to point out that this note does comply with the city's debt management policy. Anyway, that's what's outlined in the letter. All those requirements, which we knew they were there, and we always follow those requirements. But again, the state approved it and asked that we present that letter to you at a regular council meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Davidson. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second? Have a motion and a second. I've got a couple of questions about the interior, the actual items. I know we covered some of these things in our work session, but the construction of the new concession stand for Cane Creek Park, is that to replace where the boat rental is?
It's the concession stand right next to where the boat rental is, the little boat dock at Cane Creek Park.
Okay.
That building will be torn down and a new one constructed in its place.
All right. And what about the repair and remark of the flooring at Cane Creek Gym? What happened with that?
The gymnasium, there was some damage to the floor, and I can't really tell you exactly what happened. I don't think Rick is here, and Jim, I don't know if you recall, but there's some repainting or remarking and striping of the floor, but there was some damage to the wood, and I just don't really know the cause of that.
All right. And the AEDs, is that to replace some, or is this more?
It's two new ones.
Okay.
It's two 12-lead AED.
Refurbished ones.
Yeah, and they're refurbished, and those have already been bid. Council approved those bids, the purchase of those already. I think they approved those maybe at the August 7th meeting, but those have been approved already. And there's two of those.
For police cars or for fire
department?
Fire trucks, okay.
Department.
And their lead defibrillators, a new one costs like $30,000.
So they're half price,
two
basically.
refurbished ones for the same money.
These are kind of like if you compare them to cars, Jim Woodford will appreciate this. These defibrillators are kind of like Cadillacs compared to, like a Yugo on the AED. So
Okay.
Pretty extreme.
These are pretty serious. These are pretty serious defibrillators.
Good thing you didn't say compared to a Buick. That would have been a problem. All right, what about the two vehicles?
Those vehicles are, one is, I believe, in the maintenance department,
All right.
and the other one is our leisure services department. And they're $20,000. We got those budgeted at $20,000. They're service trucks.
Very good. Just wanted background since it was done the last council.
Previously.
Yes. Any other discussion or questions from the council?
I'd make one comment on the concession stand at Cane Creek Park. We went and looked at it. I had no idea it was in that bad a shape. It's terrible. If it hadn't been terrible, I probably wouldn't have wanted to redo it. But it really needs to be done.
We've got some pictures that we can send to you.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah, show them the slides.
Pictures are bad enough.
Yeah.
They were bad.
Any question or comment from the audience? Seeing none, all vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Item 7, consider approval to purchase road salt from statewide bid contract. Sponsor Greg Brown.
Mayor and Council, Morton Salt has the state bid contract for our area this year. We have $35,000 budgeted for road salt. The bid price is $74.85 a ton, and I would recommend approval of that. That will buy us 467 tons this winter.
Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
And how much salt ready for this upcoming winter total?
Well, our bin is full now. We've got about 1,000 tons. So we won't buy this till we use about half of what's in there, then we'll buy some.
Any further discussion?
Greg, just a matter of curiosity, what's typically, how much salt do we use? I know winters vary, but is there an average?
Last winter, we didn't use that much. We maybe used 300 or 400 tons. Winter before that, we nearly used all of our 1,000 tons, or the 2 winters before that. Within the 2 or 3 winters ago, we used nearly our whole supply of salt. So it just varies on how much ice you get.
Anything else? All vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Item 8, consider awarding bid for iron pipe. Sponsor Ronnie Kelly.
No, just flip it after that. Mayor and Council, we opened bids on some ductile iron pipe, 12-inch. That's going to be the first leg of pipe that we're supposed to install per the agreement with the Academy Sports. We're going to bring it down from Minelet Creek down about 1,000 and so feet to get to their service requirements. We've opened bids. HD Supply Waterworks was a low bidder, $22.68 a foot, and would recommend a low bid.
Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all vote.
Thank you.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Okay, that concludes our meeting. We'll have a moment here if you have any citizens or delegations that would like to speak on anything pertaining to the city. I'd like to remind everyone about Fall Fun Fest and the Cookeville Cook-Off that starts tomorrow night and goes through Saturday. A lot of great food and entertainment up on the square, so enjoy that as the community. Council. All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.